Welcome to This Is How We Create, a show that digs deeper into the creative life of contemporary artists of color. Discover what feeds their creativity and how they found or are finding their artistic voice. Through these intimate and candid conversations, you'll gain insights into the lives of creative professionals of color that are hard to find anywhere else. Hey friend, welcome back to This Is How We Create. My name is Martine Séverin, your host. Before we get to this episode, I just wanted to give a big shout out to Lady Jane Noir for leaving a review on podcast that just discovered your podcast, just what I needed to stay motivated, creative, and focused. Thank you. Well, thank you, Lady Jane Noir, for leaving us a review on iTunes. Every single review really helps us to reach more people so more people can discover This Is How We Create and get to know all of the most fabulous artists of color that are out there today. So today we're going to be talking about something that might feel a little off topic, but actually it sits right in the heart or right at the heart of our creative lives. Emotions as messengers. So in our house here where I'm recording this episode, we talk a whole lot about emotions. But this isn't because we're particularly touchy-feely, but it's because we're trying to break some generational trauma patterns. Do you know that relative that can turn Thanksgiving into an episode of Emotional Survivor, where everyone's just trying to not get voted off the island? Yeah, we're talking about that person. But my husband and I decided right from the get-go that we would not recreate that dynamic. So I have a story today that might resonate with you. 3 years ago, I gave up drinking, and my absolute favorite thing in the world was working on a jigsaw puzzle while listening to an audiobook with either tea, coffee, or, if we're real, a cocktail. I was drinking this heavenly cocktail while listening to an episode of the Huberman Lab podcast. Now, this episode was about alcohol. Now, I normally would have skipped right past that episode entirely because, well, I like drinking and I did not want anyone to be raining on my parade. The audacity of science trying to become between me and my happiness, I'm not taking it. But the recommendation came from my gym's newsletter. So I thought, well, why not? Let's give it a chance. Because apparently I trust the gym more than I trust my own judgment, which says a lot about both of us. But as I listened to this episode, something absolutely clicked. All those aches and pains that I had been experiencing, they are connected to alcohol. And right then and there, I pushed aside my glass and I made myself a cup of hot water instead. What I realized later was how much of my emotional life was tied to drinking. When I was stressed after a long day, a glass of wine would be perfect. When I was feeling awkward or nervous about going to a networking event or to a social event, I knew that a drink would help my introverted self find her extroverted voice. Now, fast forward to this past week when I was in Texas training for a new business venture. What did I do? Those margaritas started looking so good. And while this business will fit hand in glove with my creative business, while I was going through the training, I had a margarita one day. And then the next day, I was at this wonderful restaurant having fried green tomatoes, and I had a drink with that. And all of a sudden, alcohol and I were on a reunion tour, complete with merch and everything. And can you guess what happened? Boy, did those aches return. My body was sending me a clear message. Martine, we literally just had this conversation 3 years ago. Do not drink. But you know what? It wasn't until I sat down with myself that I realized what was happening. I wasn't drinking because I wanted to taste those tasty margaritas. In fact, it wasn't about the margaritas at all. It was about anxiety. I was anxious about this new business venture. But here's what I realized though. And if you've been with me reading Creative Matters, you know that I talked about the wise mind method. And as I was feeling a little bit funky, if you will, and was feeling this anxiety, I used that wise mind method to figure out what was going on because it wasn't about the margaritas, it was about that anxiety. And if it was about the anxiety, I needed to know what exactly was going on and why I was feeling anxious. But you know what I discovered? That, in fact, the excitement was all about, I want to do a really good job. And I was using alcohol to mask the feelings that I needed to process. And when you're sober, or should I say, when you're not relying on external inputs to manage your emotions, you actually have time to sit with them. And your body at the end is your friend, it's your ally. And it's sending you messages that deserve your attention. For me, what I realized is that I really needed to journal and I didn't need a drink. And since my thoughts move faster than my hands, I needed to talk it all out. And like I'm doing now with you. You might be thinking, Martine, this is supposed to be a podcast about creativity. Why are you talking about feelings? Well, first of all, how dare you question my process? But no, really, I'm joking. But you are a human being, and everything you do, everything I do is connected to our feelings. And as artists, our emotions aren't side effects, they're creative tools. They tell us where we are in the creative process. That anxiety I felt about this new business, it was showing me that I was in the layover phase, that space between deciding a direction and actually launching. It was pointing me towards what needed my attention. So here's what I want you to consider. 1, what are you running from? What emotions are you avoiding that might actually be the key to your next creative breakthrough? Now, I'm not saying that you need to become your own therapist. No, that's not it at all. I'm just suggesting that facing what you're feeling rather than masking it might be both your biggest challenge and the biggest boost to your creativity. Now, I know that feelings are really complicated because we all have different levels of trauma. And certainly, it's not as easy or said as I've pointed it out. And if you are having a lot of emotions and you feel like, well, this is something that I can't work out on my own, it's really important that you find a professional that can help you with it, because sometimes journaling doesn't cut it. Sometimes talking to our friends doesn't cut it. And sometimes we need a higher power, whether it's prayer or whether it's a professional to help you with what you're going through. That's all that I have for you on today's mini episode. I'll see you next week. Hi there. I have a quick favor to ask you before you go. If you're loving the show, would you mind taking a quick second to leave us a 5-star review on your favorite go-to podcast app? Here's the thing. Those reviews are like magic fairy dust. They help other creatives of color discover our show and tap into their own artistic superpowers. While you're at it, why not subscribe to our Substack newsletter, Creative Matters? Creative Matters is like a weekly dose of inspiration delivered straight to your inbox. You can find the link to subscribe in the show notes. All right, that's all that I have for you today. I can't wait to see you on the next episode. Bye.